Hello there, everybody, and welcome back to Circling Seattle Sports on Converge Media. Your hosts, as always, Bel Garcia and Charles Hammaker. Uh, Interesting sort of week again. I mean, it's never not an interesting week as we join you here on Memorial Day of 2022. But it's always unique to get into the teams and see their different stories as we continue on. So, with that being said, Bel, I mean, not too much heading over in the Seahawks section as we kind of get through OTAs and all that, but
Yeah.
some at least notable, right?
Nothing super huge for team notes here. On the 23rd, Russell Wilson did speak up about the matchup against the Seahawks, saying that he wants it to be a non-emotional week one against Seattle. He said it's just ball. There's been amazing times. So not to shortchange his time here, but
do you have any I think that's a load of BS. I mean, there's no emotion. I mean, do you think he's gonna just tune that out? I mean, obviously there's a lot of history there. There's a title in there in his career in Seattle. Was drafted, and his whole story wasn't supposed to be a starter ever. Matt Flynn was going to be the guy. Do you buy any of that?
No. I don't.
I don't
know. But I think we've talked about it before and just how the fans will receive him. And I think that will definitely play into how non-emotional the matchup is. So
yeah, I'm interested because I know I think it's pretty split with how people will react to that with, oh, it's Russell Wilson. He's gave so much to the city, which I get both sides. But also we knew that this was brewing for years, and I tried to put it off, and I tried to give hope that it wasn't, which I was wrong about. I'll openly admit that. But I don't know. I don't really buy that whole non-emotional stuff. I think that's
real. Him downplaying how everything went down.
Yeah.
Calling you out, Russell.
All right.
On the 26th here for team notes, the team loses an executive. The Seahawks scouting executive Alonzo Highsmith is returning to his alma mater of Miami as its new general manager of football operations. Just a little bit on Highsmith's life here. He's a former fullback and former boxer. He served as the vice president of player personnel for the Cleveland Browns from 2018 to 2019. So best of luck in his future endeavors there. Moving on to some league news here. That's a lot going on in league news.
Yeah, things picked up around the league, but not necessarily with us.
Yeah, for sure. So on the 23rd, kind of a busy day. Arizona is now going to be featured on Hard Knocks. Not sure if you guys are updated on the show currently. I think Dallas is in this season, right?
I think that with the preseason Cardinals, I know that for in season, it was the Colts last year, and they had this really nice. They were getting ready for the playoffs, and then obviously they lost to the Jaguars in week 18, and people were really excited to see how that played out on the show itself, because there must have been some. I didn't watch it, but it'll be interesting to note that a lot of the Hard Knocks teams, knock on wood, don't reach the Super Bowl, so maybe that's a good thing for us, but I don't know. I don't really care for Hard Knocks that much.
The last one I remember, and I might be behind, but I do remember watching the Dallas Cowboys and them going through the Dak Prescott injury. So that was the last thing I remember. Anywho, Cardinals are next up. The Commanders might be moving to Virginia. So the Washington football team has reportedly purchased 200 acres of land for a new stadium, but it's even further away from DC than FedEx Field is. Not very encouraging to the fans. So we'll see how they feel about that there, if that's actually news or just a rumor. Moving on here, the 49ers are open to trading Jimmy Garoppolo. I think that's been kind of known since the offseason, maybe even the season. But the team and QB are open to a trade that is flexible to find the best situation. So we'll keep you updated on if Jimmy Garoppolo moves or where he ends up. And then more 49ers news here. Deebo Samuel has chosen to skip the 49ers OTAs. Now, some players, such as Aaron Rodgers, choose to do it because of course, their tenure with the team, and they don't feel like it's completely necessary with them. There's a little bit of drama going on with the Deebo Samuel situation. How do you see this playing out?
I think he stays with the team. I don't think, with the quality of a player that he is, and what he brings to the table. I think John Lynch talked about it a few weeks ago. They would be pretty insane to move him. But at the end of the day, if he does not want to be in a 49ers uniform, he won't be in a 49ers uniform.
Right.
That's how it is. OTAs is one thing. Once we get into actual training camp in August, and we see that ramp up, then I would show some concern. But right now, I've seen crazier situations where this angles into a new deal. Cam Chancellor was holding out around this time, training camp, for a new deal, and he got a new deal. So could this be a new deal? Yes. If this continues into training camp and more details unfold, then I will be like, oh, maybe we'll get Devo out of the division. But
as a fan, would you be so like open-armed in having him back, with him saying that he doesn't want to be in a 49ers uniform?
It depends on the situation.
Yeah.
Because if it's like if it's I just hate San Francisco, they play in Santa Clara. That I will die on that hill. I will die on that hill. But if it's just, the front office is treating me wrong, then it's like, it's not on you. But if it's it depends on the circumstances, is my point on that.
Yeah.
So cautiously, I would say yes, I would, but it depends on the circumstances.
Okay, moving on here. That wraps up the 23rd, and we'll move on to the next day here. More notes for the 24th. The NFL Combine is staying in Indianapolis. In 2023 and 2024, scouting combines will officially be held in Indianapolis following relocation rumors. So no need to pay attention to those rumors anymore. It's been confirmed. The NFL has also expanded the Rooney Rule. Teams looking to hire a QB coach will now have to interview a candidate from an underrepresented group. And I just have to say in regards to that it's about time. And I can't believe that wasn't instituted previously. So moving on here, the NFL's getting rid of the Pro Bowl. The league is reportedly discussing ways to improve Pro Bowl week, including the possibility of eliminating the game altogether. And I can say personally for myself that I don't watch the Pro Bowl.
I don't think a lot of people watch the Pro Bowl. I mean, it's just been something that, different leagues around the country have worked on their all-star games. The NBA, I know there's some weird point requirement that they have to hit.
Yeah.
And there's the way that the teams are drafted. I know a few years ago, the NFL it was like Team Dion versus Team Chris Carter, where they were drafted, I believe. It's tough when there's nothing at stake and players are more worried about not getting injured. There has to be something that they want to play for. If you're there and it's just a participation thing, it's like, okay, you get the clips of the Pro Bowl where guys are like hugging and it's a tackle, so hey, there are people in this position that get paid the big bucks to figure this out. So do I see the Pro Bowl getting removed?
Probably not.
No, I figured they were going to try some stopgap situation and maybe it works, but Pro Bowl, I have not sat down and watched a Pro Bowl in years.
Yeah, I haven't ever. Moving on here to some more Deshaun Watson news. So the NFL commissioner, Roger Goodell, states that the league is nearing the end of its investigation into sexual misconduct allegations against the Browns quarterback. So, of course, we'll make sure to keep you updated on what that means for him and whether that means he starts the season or if things get delayed a little bit. That wraps up the 24th. We'll move on to the 25th here. Colin Kaepernick finally landed an NFL workout after 5 years out of the league. So he did work out with the Las Vegas Raiders last Wednesday, May 25th. And it's reported that he's in great shape and the workout went well. But it's been radio silence since then, right?
Yeah. I don't know what that was about. If he sat there and performed well, you've got Derek Carr. So he's not sitting there and performing for a starter role. But it's always good to have depth. I'm just interested to see, if you're going to be radio silent, like you said, was it just to work him out, see what he's got, kick the tires, help him, sort of showcase himself to the rest of the league. And part of the reason that I was interested in this headline was it throws out any narrative that it's just a publicity thing. He doesn't want to actually play. He worked out. He was reported in great shape. The workout went well. He wants to play. At the end of the day, I didn't like him for the longest time because he was a 49ers quarterback. So it's like, I don't care if he's doing well, someone has to sign him because there are quarterbacks on other rosters that are not as good as him. And I'm not saying he's great, but he's better than some of the options that are on actual rosters and actual contracts right now.
And he's been open to a backup role, and I think he would make a great backup. So moving on here, the NFL is launching its own streaming service. The league will reportedly launch its own service in July and will feature live games. So does that mean that they're going to be competition for like Sunday ticket, or how does that work?
I think so. I'm not sure. I just the only way I feel about this is I'm tired of streaming services. There's just
too many of them.
we're gonna get an MLB one, and we've already got like Sunday ticket, right? I mean, what NFL Game Pass?
Right.
So I don't know. Too many, too much to deal with.
Moving on here, the league is facing a tough legal battle against John Gruden. The NFL went 0-2 in court against Gruden on Wednesday as a judge tossed out a pair of motions that were filed by the league. And then a day that was a little bit quieter on the 29th, Aaron Donald signs with Kanye's agency. NFL superstar announces that he has signed with Wes Donda Sports on the I Am Athlete podcast. He was asked if a signature cleat collection would be coming with that partnership and didn't really give any specifics. Kind of was open to the idea, but anywho, we don't know what that partnership will bring, so we'll make sure to keep you guys posted here. And then, of course, looking ahead, late July NFL training camp, and that about wraps up our football. So go ahead, and I'll pass it on to you for our Mariners.
Another up and down week, it seems, for our Mariners, who cannot really seem to find their footing or consistency. So with that being said, we'll look to their series here, 3-game set to begin their homestand against the Oakland Athletics. So on the 23rd versus the Athletics, a 7-6 win, kind of grinding that out there really close. Player of the game, center fielder Julio Rodriguez going 2 for 4 with 2 runs and 3 RBIs. The next day, looking to get that series win, unable to do so. A 5-7 loss on the 24th. Player of the game, first baseman Ty France. You'll hear that name a lot today. Going 1 for 3 with 3 RBIs and a walk. So a tough one. I mean, it's a 2-run game. You were close. It's fine. Go back and win the next game, right? As you can see, they didn't do that. They would lose on the 25th in a Wednesday matinee 2-4. Player of the game, once again, Ty France going 1 for 2 with a run and a walk. So a tough one. I mean, you sit there, and at the time, on the loss of that 25th, you were in the bottom of the division. You were playing Oakland, who is 5th in the division, and then you lose a series to them, which you really cannot afford if you want to be a playoff team, if you want to live up to the expectations set by the franchise and the organization, the front office, all that. You have to win series, and you have to take care of the bad teams. And you didn't do that. I mean, this is an Oakland team that gutted itself. Chapman's gone. Olsen's gone. They traded Chris Bassett. I think Sean Manaea got traded to the Padres. And so it's like, hey, these are teams you should roll over. You can lose one game, but ultimately, like I've been saying, as this season has gone on, you have to win series. And you lost one, and then you were in the cellar of the division. And after that game on the 25th, it was like, hey, you have to play Houston now. Houston, top of the division. They found their footing after kind of struggling in the beginning. Did not look good. So we head over to that Houston 3-game set, which began on the 27th. A 6-1 win, which Bell was at. Player of the game that I picked, designated hitter Kyle Lewis, going 1 for 4 with a run and 2 RBIs in this game. So the bats come alive.
They did.
6-1 win. I mean, this is Houston. You think, okay, maybe this is one of those games where the offense is good, they shoot up, and then they falter and lose the series. On the 28th, they would be able to continue that offensive performance, winning that game 6-0. Player of the game, Ty France, once again going 2 for 4 with a run and 2 RBIs. So you win the series against Houston, which is a good thing. You want to, again, as another thing that I've said with this team, if you ultimately want to make a playoff spot or win the division, you're going to have to beat the big bad, which is at this time Houston. How long will the Angels continue their successful run? I really don't know, because they've dismantled themselves in the past. But beating Houston is what matters. And you've beat Houston at home in series now twice, which is good, because also you play all these games against Houston before the All-Star break. So you have to make these count.
Yeah.
You can't flick the switch on later. But this was a win, I would say, in this series. But I will get nitpicky, because with the hole that you've dug yourself into, you have to
continue
be pretty
win.
damn good.
Yeah.
Yes. So we look at the end of that series there on the 29th, a 1-2 loss on Sunday. Player of the game, first baseman Ty France, going 1 for 3 with 1 RBI, knocking in the only run that the Mariners scored. Now, this was another situation where Seattle left too many guys on base. There was one in the bottom of the 7th where they had runners on 2nd and 3rd with 1 out. Mike Ford and Luis Hearn strike out. Can't have that. Can't even put the ball in play, right? To not, add more runs, give Marco Gonzalez some run support, because Marco didn't have 2 runs in the modern league I would say is an okay outing. You can live with that, right? Because you hope your offense can sustain you and give you more than one run. They didn't do that. And then the bottom of the ninth, you load the bases. Mike Ford draws a walk, and he got one out. Luis Trens comes in and grounds into a double play. You had the bases loaded. It was a golden opportunity. And then because I like to look at the numbers sometimes, I've got information for you with the bases loaded this year for the Seattle Mariners with no outs and the bases loaded. They've got a walk, a hit, 2 sac flies, and 5 plate appearances. So not bad with no outs, right? With 1 out, 231 average, and 16 plate appearances, which isn't the worst. But with 2 outs, a 63 average, 63 and 16 plate appearances. Obviously, the 2 out numbers are atrocious, but those numbers should all be better.
Yeah.
These runners in scoring position situations have been terrible all year. And that's another thing. That's another layer. If you want to be a successful ball club, those numbers have to change. And you've got the talent on this roster. It's not like we're looking at opening day's roster last year where you've got guys like Sam Haggerty in the lineup with Jake Fraley's, hitting leadoff, I think. The talent is there. I just wonder, again, this is something that I've been a big sticking point on. How much of this is the coaching staff? Because when Edgar Martinez was the hitting coach, the Mariners were top 10 or top 15 in hits per game and batting average for the time that he was here. As long as he's been gone, they've been the bottom 12 in the league in those categories.
And I think I remember you saying that last week as well.
Yes, it's something has to change. Obviously, you look at the first 2 games of the Houston series, the offense was awake, right? But this is something that I'm really interested to see. Like when I said at the top of the segment, the consistency of this ball club and how much you can keep that going. I don't care if you hit 1 snag in the road one time and you put up 11 runs against the Astros, and then you lose the next 3 and you put up 3 combined runs. It does not matter. Consistency and just being able to be a good ball club day in and day out. At the end of the day, it's not the end of the world if they don't make the World Series this year, because the front office hyped up playoffs. You're not even reaching that. At this point, you're looking at maybe 3rd in the division, 4th in the division. I wouldn't say you're finished in last, but you've got to turn things around decently quick. So that's my piece on it. So, you lose the series to Oakland, you win a series against Houston, kind of weird there. So we'll head over to Player of the Week. Bell had Julio this week. I want to count how many times we've had Julio.
I know.
On Player of the Week.
I know.
But you said something interesting. You said it wasn't because of his stats today.
Well,
why was that?
I guess you could say his stats. It wasn't his weekly stats. It was just, I guess, seeing him continue to grow. 21-year-old rookie. 14 stolen bases on the season, continues that lead. And then in Chuck's blog, I will highlight that he said that he is making his push for AL Rookie of the Month and possibly AL Rookie of the Year. So, I mean, that's huge, but that's also based on statistics on what he's been able to accomplish. So I guess it's somewhat of both.
Yeah, I mean, he's really turned it on. Houston's Jeremy Pena has been really good at short for them, but Julio's catching up. I mean, in F4, he leads in WRC plus hits. I mean, you brought out the stats that I actually wrote down, which is kind of funny. But you got a point. I mean, Julio, and I think I had a tweet about it. In the season that has been as tough as it has to begin, Julio has been just as advertised. There have been prospects that you could say the scouting, the developmental team has ruined in the past. I don't know how much Dustin Ackley, other prospects, whatever. Guys like Julio, you cannot mess up. He is going to be a star, and he has been. So, I mean, do you have any further thought on that?
Thank you for,
Yeah, well, so, hard to go wrong with that. I had Kyle Lewis this week simply because if you know me, Kyle Lewis has always been a favorite of mine, and it's been really great to see him come back and produce as he has. Not the biggest numbers in the world, but in his 15 plate appearances since he's been brought back to the ball club, a 267 average, 2 homers, 3 RBIs, 4 hits, a 313 on base percentage, and a 667 slugging percentage. Kyle's just been a guy that has had a really rocky career to begin with injuries and just injuries and just not being able to stay on the field. And so to see him back, to see him producing in this lineup, not yet taking out field play, just kind of being in there as a hitter, and being successful in that role. It's his story is great, and I just hope that they manage that properly, because that's something that Scott Service said before one of the games. He's not going to play outfield for a while, but they do want to make sure that he gets out there, and they're going to monitor it as that progresses. So we look over to team-related news here. On the 24th, Kyle Lewis returned to the lineup, as we're getting to. He was reinstated from the 10-day IL, and as I said, in that DH role, he's going to be there for a while. Scott Service said he won't play in the outfield for a decent amount of time, foreseeable future. On the 25th, right-handed pitcher Adrian Sampson declined his outright assignment to AAA Tacoma and elected free agency. So kind of interesting. He says, "Nah, I'm not going to stay in your organization. I'm out of here."
Yeah.
On the 26th, right-handed pitcher Drew Steckenrider was optioned to AAA Tacoma. So no injury there. Just his play to begin the year has not been. He's taken a definite hit from what he was last year. And then a little bit of a prospect check-in on the 26th as well. Right-handed pitcher Connor Jones threw a 7-inning no-hitter for AA Arkansas. The Travelers pitcher raised his scoreless inning streaks to 22. So kind of interesting to see him there, see how the farm's doing with this system. On the 27th, left-handed pitcher Roenis Elias was selected from AAA Tacoma, and right-handed pitcher Riley O'Brien was designated for assignment. So with that being said, excuse me, Belle, I'm going to hand the league notes to you.
Of course.
And things kind of took an interesting turn around the league.
Yeah. So starting on the 26th here, Anderson Donaldson Sega. Donaldson issues a statement about his racist remark, apologizing. There was a mutual understanding. In the past, it had never been an issue. Things that we mentioned last week. I guess he's just continuing to go with that. So anyways, issued that apology. The Yankees and the Rays denounce gun violence. The teams halt their social media coverage of their game to bring attention to facts about gun violence in America. On the 27th here, Giants manager to skip anthem. Gabe Kapler says that he will protest during the national anthem until I feel better about the direction of our country. Mets manager Buck Showalter says he supports his action and would support his players if they did the same. Tony La Russa disagrees, calling his action inappropriate. So it'll be interesting to see how the dominoes fall here after that.
Yeah, it's been interesting. I mean, I don't want to just move on from the Anderson and Donaldson stuff.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that situation's been resolved and moved on from, because that was just inappropriate all the ways around. But with what's happened, obviously this is not our field. We're sports. We do sports.
Yeah.
But with what's happened, it's been interesting to see not only in Major League Baseball, but what the different leagues around the country have done to bring more attention to that and kind of put that at the forefront. So it was interesting, because I was on Twitter that day when the Yankees and Rays were doing that. Nothing about the game, just information about gun violence, just statistics about it, which was really interesting to see. So
I did see some similar situations where some people on social media were apologizing before they started just, sending out tweets about the sport, that they had to continue to do that. So it is interesting to see how some people what they're doing to show their support for that. Was there anything else you wanted to say? Close it out?
No. So we'll finish up here with our Mariners sitting at a 20-28 record at the moment, fourth in the American League West. They will head on the road now for a 9-game road trip as they take on the Baltimore Orioles May 31st through June 2nd. Those are all 4:05 p.m. Pacific time starts, and then traveling down to play. I put the wrong graphic in there. The Texas Rangers from June 3rd through 5th. The third at a 5:05 p.m. start. The fourth at a 1:05, and a fifth at 11:35 a.m. So another, again, just win series. So we'll head over now as Bell looks at the Storm, who continue their winning ways here in their historic homestand.
Yeah, they're now on a win streak of 4 games. They played the Liberty on the 27th, and that was a win of 79-71 in overtime. That ended at 67-67 in regulation, and then they had to go into overtime there fortunately won. We have player of the game, Brianna Stewart, with 31 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 steals, and 1 block. And that is Stewie's first 30-point performance of the season. So looking forward to seeing more. On the 29th, they once again played the Liberty. That was not what was expected, considering that overtime win. They won that one 92-61, completely dominant. The player of the game there was Jewel Lloyd with 22 points, 3 rebounds, 6 assists. And this is Seattle's 8 game homestand. It's continuing, and they're tied for the longest in WNBA history with those 8 games. So moving on to some injury news here. On the 26th, Steph Talbot is announced out for the May 27th game against the Liberty with health and safety protocols. And not long after that, the next day, we have some more injury news against the Liberty. Again, for the 27th, Mercedes Russell would be out, of course, with that non-basketball injury. Steph Talbot would be out with health and safety protocols. And then Sue Bird and Ezzie Magbegor were also announced as out with health and safety protocols. On the 29th, the same 4 were out: Mercedes Russell, Steph Talbot, Sue Bird, and Ezzie Magbegor. And then it goes without saying that they stepped up in that hardship of having so many players out, a Sue Bird out, an Ezzie out. So just, what did you see overall in that overtime win that stood out to you?
I mean, I'd say in both games, Breon January and Jontel Lavender, 2 veterans who have been around the league a long time. It's January's last season in the W. Both filled into those roles really well. In the second game, Jontel, I thought, had a better performance. Obviously, the double-double, first of any Storm player this season. But she had a good inside presence. I mean, was calm down inside, playing against Natasha Howard, who's great, former Storm player. Stephanie Dolson, experienced veteran, played well inside. And it just kind of seemed like those other players did step up. Kiana Williams did not get as many minutes in that first game, but it was kind of tough. The Storm felt like they were kind of building in the first half, which was kind of surprising. Normally that juice kicks in the third period. But then it kind of just were giving up shots and shots and shots as the season, the third quarter was the biggest. I think they were outscored 9 points in the third quarter, and just things couldn't play well down low as the end of the game reached it. And then it was kind of Stewie throughout that game just continued to attack the rim, and just kind of took over in overtime. That's what I saw in that game. But it was really interesting to see that. Obviously, lose Sue Bird, who near the top of the league in assists, obviously isn't bringing you as much in terms of points, but also Ezzie and Ted that she's been on, that's a big loss there. Yes. Even Steph Talbot, these are all important players, so a key point that was made, I think, even when you were there, it was brought up then and it was brought up again, was having these players fly commercial, and then not having like a G League, like a practice player spot, so that they can have these players with the organization, with the system, be familiar, be able to come up, like when the Mariners call guys up from Tacoma, to be able to fill in for this. Because you said I had to sign Kayla Davis to a hardship contract, had to bring in Kiana Williams, had to have her pack her bags immediately. These are difficult situations to put people in. You're basically on call. So it was really, obviously props to those players who had to sign hardship contracts and fill in. But this is a situation with the W that needs to be resolved.
Yes, and several players, I think, Jewel Lloyd spoke up on it. So, yes, definitely. Moving on here for team notes, since we've covered that Kiana Williams and Kayla Davis were signed to a hardship contract here, I'll move on to our other news. Storm President and CEO Alicia Valavanis named Seattle Sports Leader of the Year. The award, which was handed out this year for the first time since 2012, recognizes a leader whose efforts have demonstrated significant and positive impact within a sports organization or the Washington sports community. Valavanis has guided the Seattle Storm through a monumental year as a team returns to the Seattle Center and the newly renovated Climate Pledge Arena. Valavanis has been instrumental in the Storm's recently announced training facility, which, when completed in 2024, will be the only practice facility dedicated for the exclusive use of a WNBA team. She has also overseen the growth of the Storm's Force for Change program. the franchise's comprehensive social justice platform, which allows the Storm to be a force to affect meaningful change in Seattle. So congratulations to her, and it's well-deserved. Moving on to some league notes here. On the 24th, the Washington Mystics hold a media blackout in protest of gun control due to the mass shooting in Uvalde, Texas. They did step up to the podium, but they just said, we're doing a media blackout. We don't agree with the way things are currently, and so we want change, in more words than that.
Yeah.
So again, just like you said, it's interesting to see just different players, different leagues stepping up and speaking up about gun control. On the 25th, we have a kind of update on Brittany Griner. It has been more than 100 days since Brittany Griner. Yeah. Since Brittany Griner was detained. So her wife spoke of the situation and states that she hasn't gotten the chance to speak to Brittany Griner very much. And she called to action President Biden because she believes that he is the only one who can go get her. And honestly, we all follow behind her, I think. So she said, you can say she's top priority, but I want to see it. So hopefully we do see something changing here.
Actions do speak louder than words.
They do.
So
yeah. So the Storm sit at a 5-3 standing. They're third in the Western Conference. And looking ahead, we have a June 3rd matchup versus the Dallas Wings at 7 p.m. and a June 5th versus the Connecticut Sun at 3 p.m. So that about wraps up the WNBA, and we'll move on to our Sounders.
So another kind of the Sounders are trying to get back into their form. You know, there was this talk about a hangover from the CCL final. I did not buy that. You know, you lose the Open Cup game, totally fine. It's Open Cup. That's not the top priority. CCL final and the MLS Cup are your priorities. You win Open Cup, sure, fine. Another trophy to add to the case. But, you know, it's a tough situation. You try to get back into prioritizing actual MLS play. They beat Minnesota. You lose to Colorado. No teams have really been able to win in Colorado, so I kind of give you some slack there. But Charlotte comes to town. Charlotte, an expansion team. They're 5-2 at home, but now heading into this matchup, there were 0 wins, 5 losses, 1 draw on the road. Mm-hmm. So obviously they can't win away from home. With that being said, the Sounders helped with that, beating Charlotte 2-1. This is a comeback win. The Sounders had to score 2 second-half goals in order to get the 3 points. Player of the game, Raul Ruiz, an 80th minute winner. I don't want to speak much about it, and I would rather just show you because this. I was a little busy during this, but I did watch it, and it was a little bit insane.
Yeah,
his momentum's carrying him away from the ball, and there's still a shot that is damn near impossible. I'm gonna roll it.
He'll recover. Rui Diaz on the right foot drives in, and Rui Diaz has scored. 2-1 Seattle.
Falling away, still Raul continues to be a guy that amazes. One of the guys that is one of the Sounders' all-time leading scorers and always steps up in big moments. So great to get.
What did you call him a few weeks ago? Clutch? And
I would say that, yeah.
Look at that clutch shot there.
2 goals in the final to win that. It's just he's a guy that you wanted to lock up, and I'm glad that they did this offseason. And it's nice to continue that. Like I said, you had been out of any playoff race when you were playing in CCL, but obviously there was something bigger at hand. It seems like they're really getting back into rhythm. I'm not saying that they're fully in rhythm right now, but they're getting back to it is my point. So it's actually funny. With this game on Sunday, it begins the Sounders' first ever 5-match homestand. They have never played more than 3 MLS home games in a row before, and the most for all competitions was 4 in 3 different instances, 2011, 2020, and 2021. Long stretches that were more common when they were in the A-League or the USL era, multiple 6-game homestands and 8-match runs in 2008, but never in MLS. So we got some big homestands coming around here in the city. So anyway, we'll continue. João Paulo on the 25th had successful surgery to repair his ACL tear in his right knee. So now it's the best of luck with his recovery, trying to get back, one of the MVP finalists in the league, let alone being the Sounders MVP last season. Just hoping that João can come back as strong as ever, and obviously no setbacks for him as he rehabs. On the 27th, the injury report against Charlotte was completely clean, so you like to see that. So with that being said, the Sounders moved to a 5-win, 6-loss, 1-draw record. They are 10th in the Western Conference now, so not quite yet in a playoff spot, but they're looking for it. On the 14th, they will play the Vancouver Whitecaps in their next matchup. So they've got an international break now. They won't be doing much outside of the guys who are actually going to play for their teams. And that is a 7:30 p.m. start time at Lumen Field. So this is a Cascadia matchup. Obviously, anything Cascadia is always sure to get its draw, and I love it. You love the rivalry. You love how that goes, but you need to take care of business.
Yeah.
So we'll see them continue rolling. There's nothing Kraken related, so I'm sorry, but I don't have anything to pass to you.
No, that's fine. Go on, and we'll just continue with soccer here, and we'll move on to our
with the
OL
rain.
Yeah.
It's kind of odd, It's just when you skip a segment, it feels weird. We'll head over to our rain here, who played 3 games in 1 week. Let alone being a professional athlete, that feels like a lot to you. No, I mean 3 games 1 week. So there were some mixed lineups, but the rain had 9 points on the table. We'll see how many they got. So May 25th versus the Kansas City Current on a Wednesday at 7:00, which is it's kind of tough, especially for people to try to come and get them out of there. A 1-0 win. Player of the game forward Bethany Balser with a goal, 2 shots in 27 minutes played. Obviously coming on to sub as a super sub, recording the game-winning goal in the 80th minute off a great service from Sofia Huerta. And then on the 29th versus the San Diego Wave, playing the Wave, who were at the top of the NWSL table coming into this game, 4 wins and 1 draw. They had not lost a game. That would change on the 29th. A 1-0 win. Player of the game, forward Rose Lavelle. I know that's kind of weird. She's normally a midfielder, but they had her playing as a forward this match with a goal on 3 shots in 90 minutes, scoring a game-winning goal in the 75th minute, a header goal, which Rose is not known for her headers. So seeing that play was pretty cool. But so out of 9 possible points in that 3-match week, you got 7, which hard to complain about. A draw and 2 wins. To go undefeated in a week when you've got 3 matches, I'd say that's a success. But there's some more news on that. The 29th was a big day for the club, so we'll get to that. First, we look at the injury news. On the 25th, the match report against Kansas City was clean, so it's always good to see that. On the 29th, though, against San Diego, Megan Rapinoe was out with a back injury. So we'll follow along with that and see how serious that may be. But obviously, if she wasn't able to play, it's of some note, right? So we will keep an eye on press conferences and ask when we're able to about that. On the 29th, as I mentioned, we'll get into team news here. During halftime, the Reign tweeted out before the match that there would be a special announcement at halftime about someone returning. And this was very interesting because I put my detective hat on. I already wear a ton of hats on the show anyway. But they had the 3 Reign originals in the video they released. It was obviously Megan, Jess, and Lauren. And they showed the honor kits, like we mentioned. They've got the names of all the players that have ever played for the club running down the middle of them. And they showed a certain part of it. And you're trying to figure out if it's on there. I thought it was Eugenie Le Sommer, who came over from Olympique Lyon last year because she was left off of the Euros roster for France. So that would free up her summer effectively, right?
Yeah.
That's what my guess would be. A friend of mine said Kim Little. Kim Little was a fan favorite with the Reign. We'll get into her accolades there. It was obviously, we would find out it's Kim Little. Kim Little will return to the club with a loan from Arsenal from June 1st to the beginning of Arsenal's 2022-2023 season, which begins on the 15th of August. So it's not that long of a loan. It's kind of she's essentially being signed to help as a national team replacement player, while some of the other players like Lavelle, like Huerta, hopefully Bethany Balcer go and play with the international team. But still, I mean, you're getting a fan favorite back, someone who played with the Reign when they were the Seattle Reign back from 2014 to 2016, playing in Memorial Stadium, helping the Reign to 2 NWSL Shields, and also winning a league MVP back a while ago. So it's obviously a big help to have that, but it sucks that it's such a short time. But it's to have Kim Little in a Reign uniform in Seattle, let alone at Lumen Field, will be a pretty cool spectacle to see. The Reign don't play at home again until the 18th of June, so that is when we'll see her. But so her loan begins in 2 days. It'll be interesting to see if she's good to go for the June 4th match against Chicago. I would say no. I would say they're going to try to implement her and get her up to speed and get her familiar with other players. But it'll be really cool to see that. My parents would bring me to the Reign games at Memorial Stadium, so Kim Little is someone that I had seen before. Also on the 29th, I had a little graphic made for this. I went out. I had a little graphic made. Just Fishlock would hit 150 NWSL regular season appearances. So she's one of the Reign originals, one of the 3 that's been with the club her entire club career here since 2013. In those 150 games, 34 goals and 23 assists, my apologies, and winning MVP of the league last year. It's just someone that, as I've said before, that I think I said it in the when the season ended, but when you look at this Reign team, she is the engine that continues to push it. She is I always joke that during the Reign games they should just have a Jess cam just so you can see it. She's very lively, always on the refs, on her teammates, and just someone that makes this whole operation go. So congratulations on 150 NWSL regular season appearances to you, Jess. So nothing league news related. As we look ahead here, the Reign record sits at 2 wins, 1 loss, 3 draws. They sit at 3rd in the NWSL table right now, so they jump from about 7 to 3rd.
Nice.
At the current moment, I think there's a game going on tonight that might change that, but they've jettisoned themselves up pretty significantly. Looking ahead, they will play June 4th versus the Chicago Red Stars in Chicago. That's a noon start, which is kind of interesting on a Saturday. In Chicago, in the Midwest.
Yeah.
But it's another opportunity for them to continue to build on a little 2-game road trip. So with that being said, here we head over to our Seawolves, who continue to we're looking for a playoff spot. They had a lot of things against them. They would win the game, but just not how they needed to.
Yeah. So on the 27th, they played the Houston SaberCats. That was a win, 43-36. Player of the game was fly half AJ Alatimo with 13 total points. And just like you said, they got kicked out of playoff contention on, what was it?
That they had a certain set of circumstances that had to happen. They had to win by 8 points. They could not give up 4 tries, and they could not give up any standing points to Houston. So with Major League Rugby, it's interesting. If you score 4 tries, regardless of if you win or not, you get a point in the standings. They needed to win by more than 8. You only won by 7. They went into halftime 29-7. That's a good start. You're getting near that try area. You're getting near that bonus point. And then towards the end of the game, I think it was like after the 70th minute, Houston just fought to get those 2 tries and to bring them close. So that's it. There will be no playoffs this year. But if I tell you this, in 2020, it was a season cut short, so hard to argue with that. But they only won, I think, 1 game out of 5.
Yeah.
So 1 for 4, still tough. And then last year they were 4-12. I would say this is improvement, and I would take some victory out of this, right? You turn it around. You're fighting for a playoff spot at least into the second to last week of the season.
Mm-hmm.
I would consider that somewhat of a victory. I don't know how you would perceive that, but they fought it, and I think they'll have a better go around it next year. But compared to the last 2 years, I think this is a solid turnaround.
Yeah, improvement is always good. So I think you can consider that, even though it's not really a win.
Partial.
Yeah. So their record would sit at 8-7. Standing would be 5th in the Western Conference with 41 points. And looking ahead, they play the LA Giltinis at 3 p.m. on June 5th. And this is a first in the Western Conference team, 11-4 with 54 points. So hopefully they have enough in them still
You
to
can play some spoiler. I know that I think LA sits at the top of the West by a slim margin. So if the Seawolves could play some spoiler and help some seeding, I mean, I think the 3 teams in the playoffs are locked in now.
Yeah.
But you could play some spoiler. You could ruin some seasons, which is always fun. So
Yeah.
well, not ruin some seasons, but make it a difficult road to traverse. So with that being said, we'll head over to Star of the Week, which is always a nice little segment to go and reflect on. Belle went with Stewie. Stewie,
I doubled down.
Yeah,
she was my pick last week.
Oh, I thought it seemed familiar. So why Stewie this week?
Her first 30-point performance of the season, and it came when the team needed her. I mean, of course, we had Steph Talbot, Ezzie Magbagor, Sue Bird out for both of those games. She had that 30-point performance in the first game. But it's the 13th in her career. And on that night, she also made 15 of 18 free throws. So,
yeah.
I think
attacking the rim.
Yeah. I just think it's important as a leader to continue to lead. And I think her dominant performance in that first game allowed for other people to continue to feed off of her energy and then come out and have that blowout win in that second game. So just appreciating her leadership, and again, she is number 1 in the WNBA for a reason.
Yeah, I mean, best player in the world when healthy, and as we've said several times before, when Seattle makes a deep playoff run, Stewie is healthy.
Yes.
So, yeah, never a bad pick. I personally went with Kyle Lewis. As I've alluded to, Kyle's been a guy that, I mean, I met the guy too, so it didn't help there. His story was already an incredible one, so to have that personal aspect of it doesn't help. But to see him battle through essentially blowing out his entire knee, not just in an ACL, but like UCL, all that destroyed in Everett. And then to work back to that, to win Rookie of the Year last year, a guy that, when during 2020 and when baseball was around, there's not much going on, right? At the time, we can't really do much. To be able to to be at home, turn on TV and watch a guy like Kyle Lewis day in and day out and win Rookie of the Year, it helps. It helps get through all of that and what was going on. And to see him deal with another injury last year, and to start the year on injury report this year, and to come in and immediately contribute, it's really cool to see that. So Kyle Lewis, I doff my cap to you, and that's our episode for the week. The Mariners continue their season. The Seahawks kind of work through things in their off-season sort of schedule. The Storm are rolling right now, 4 in a row. Keep that going. I think I wanted to touch on it. You get these 8 games at home. It's a lot of time for practice. It's a lot of time to really set the sails straight, and prepare yourself for the rest of the season. Because you and I have talked about the defense and how important that is.
Yes.
You sustain that, you're going far.
Yes.
So the Sounders there getting back into shape. The Reign hitting their stride as well. Seawolves, to win the game. It's a tough loss. So I'd say it's a successful week.
Yeah,
I would take that as a successful week in our sports world. So with that being said, we got some, I don't know where they're at right now, but we got some people in the house. I mean, Salman is always dedicated. I mean, a trooper over there. Salman, I salute you and all that you do. Ike Everard's here. He's going to be helping us a lot with what we do on Circling Seattle Sports. My guy Omari is here. He's kind of sitting back there trying to be nonchalant about it. So some guys that really help make Circling Seattle Sports go. I mean, these 2 faces up here that you see do some work, but the guys behind the cameras are a really big help. So with that being said, we will see you next Monday.
In June.
We'll be in. I don't like that. I don't like that. Stuff's moving too fast, but we're getting towards summer. The days should be nicer. We should hopefully get less of that rainfall. Until we see you again, do whatever you can to make today a great day.